Okay, good afternoon and a very warm welcome. My name is Paul Wyborn and I teach in the Associate Degree in Aviation Professional Pilots here at RMIT University. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about our flight training program here at the university, while my colleague Associate Professor Crystal Jong will talk about the Bachelor of Applied Science Aviation. These programs are world-renowned and allow students to work across a variety of disciplines to replicate the real-world experience they will need once they start their careers. Please note that there is a chat function available as part of this live Teams event. You can ask your questions there, and we have a bunch of academics online right now who will try to either respond via message or we will attempt to answer your question at the end of this session. But before I start, if I could have the next slide, thanks. I'd like to do an acknowledgement of country. RMIT University acknowledges the people of the Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nation on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. RMIT respectfully acknowledges their ancestors and elders past, present and emerging. And while many of us conduct our business remotely, RMIT also acknowledges the traditional custodians and their ancestors of the lands and waters across Australia. I'd like to talk a little bit about our commitment to reconciliation now on the next slide, thanks. With 2021 Reconciliation Week not that long ago, I'd just like to touch on RMIT's commitment to reconciliation. The university is committed to redefining its relationship in working with and supporting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander self-determination. The university's goal is to achieve lasting transformation by maturing its values, culture, policy and structures in a way that embeds reconciliation in everything we do. In line with the principles of Bunjil, we are changing our ways of knowing, working and being to support sustainable reconciliation and activate a relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous staff, students and community. Let's talk a little bit now about the two study options here at RMIT University. If you are interested in a career in aviation, there are two options. I'll spend about 15 to 20 minutes talking about the first option, the Associate Degree in Aviation, Professional Pilots. And then you'll hear from Professor Crystal Jong about the Bachelor degrees later in this presentation. All right, over on the next slide, I'm going to talk now about the Associate Degree in Aviation. This is a full-time course that offers study locations at either one of two campuses, either Point Cook or Bendigo campus, and study is carried out across 7 days of the week, Monday to right through to Sunday. Flight training activities are conducted from early in the morning to late at night to facilitate the night flying programs. Theory classes are currently being delivered remotely through the university's learning and teaching platform. And from the start of the training, all students are exposed to a range of different airspace to allow them to develop the necessary skills they will need to operate in a commercial environment. RMIT maintains strong industry connections, and I'll talk about one of our industry partnerships later in this presentation. If I could have the next slide, thanks. All right, well, I mentioned that we've got two campuses which we conduct our flight training, and I'll talk firstly about the Point Cook campus, which is located about 30 minutes from the Melbourne CBD. It's located at the oldest operating Air Force base in the world, RAF Base Point Cook, and we occupy part of the Royal Australian Air Force building. Apart from the occasional military and civil aircraft movement, RFT or RMIT flight training are the main users of the airport, which we believe gives RMIT students a unique advantage over the type of airspace usage you might find at other, more busy airports. We have ready access to controlled and uncontrolled airspace, providing students with the skills and technical knowledge to navigate their way through different and sometimes very challenging airspace types. Over on the next slide, thanks. Our other campus is Bendigo, which is about a 90-minute train ride from the Melbourne CBD and located 6 kilometres from Bendigo town. Local government investment in the airport back in 2019 has seen the upgrading of airport facilities, including a new airport terminal, as well as a brand new 1,500 metre long runway. Our campus features a 2,500 square foot hangar and classrooms, and the same technology that you'll see at Point Cook campus to deliver theory classes either remotely or face-to-face. The central Victorian location of Bendigo gives access to training routes further into rural Victoria, including Swan Hill, Mildura to the northwest, and Shepparton and Albury-Wodonga in the east. Qantas, back in, I think, 2019, started daily services to and from Sydney, which of course opens up Bendigo for access to major cities across Australia and eventually, once restrictions are removed, to the world and, well, at the rest of the world, really. If I could have the next slide, thanks. I'll talk a little bit now about our course objectives. During the program, pilots are taught everything from navigation to the behavioural aspects of aviation required to ready them for work and life. These include critical thinking, decision-making, leadership, teamwork, and threat and error management. Students will graduate with a CASA, or Australian Civil Aviation Safety Authority, which is the government regulating body, who issue the recreational, private and commercial pilot licence. In addition, students will get to choose from either a command instrument rating or an instructor rating, and I'll talk a little bit more about those in the next slide. If I could have the next slide, thanks. So, with regard to those CASA licences, during the associate degree, the students will acquire 3 of those licences and 1 of 2 ratings, which are all issued by that Australian Civil Aviation Regulator, CASA. So these are the recreational pilot licence. This is an entry-level licence, which is quite restrictive. It's a little bit like driving on your P's. Next is the private pilot licence. This licence allows you to fly over the horizon and navigate your way to pretty much anywhere in Australia. And of course, at this stage, and with the recreational pilot licence, you can start carrying passengers, although it is quite restrictive. Next is the commercial pilot licence. Now, this is the money earner. Without it, you can't earn an income from flying an aircraft. The training starts to become more complex and commercially orientated. We also do the ATPL, or Air Transport Pilot Licence, theoretical exams. The theoretical knowledge, which we give you in order so that you can sit the ATPL exams. And then there's that fork in the road, and students will need to choose from either one of 2 of the ratings you see on the screen. The first one being the multi-engine command instrument rating. This allows students to fly more advanced and complex aircraft using only instruments to navigate. Or the other rating you see, which is the flight instructor rating. This is what teaches qualified pilots how to instruct, or in other words, how to become a teacher of flight. All right, next slide, thanks. I'll talk now a little bit about our entry requirements. The first thing you see there is the ATAR requirements based on the lowest selection rank you see at either Point Cook or Bendigo campus. You must have successfully completed an Australian Year 12 or equivalent, including Units 3 and 4. You must hold at least 20 in English other than English as an additional language, or a study score of at least 25 in English as an additional language, and Units 3 and 4 in any mathematics. With English being the international language of aviation, you are required to have a reasonably good command of English, and your English language proficiency will be tested as part of the syllabus. RMIT offers English language courses for anyone who doesn't yet meet the requirements through REW or RMIT English Worldwide, and the details of REW can be found on the RMIT website. There is a medical examination required to be undertaken and to be assessed to a Class 1 level for local students and Class 2 for international students. This is recommended to be done prior to enrolment, so we don't waste any time and money, only to find that you, in very rare circumstances, have some underlying or disqualifying condition. The medical examination is done by a designated aviation medical examiner, and a full list is available on the CASA website. Okay, on the next slide, thanks, I'll talk briefly about the material fees. So material fees are fees which cover items such as books, uniforms and headsets. They're not part of the theory and flying fees. Every flight training student is issued with a uniform, which looks pretty smart. It includes a tie and epaulettes. They will be issued with their own set of pilot headsets and they'll be issued with their own set of pilot headsets. So this is really what the material fees are for, as well as any additional flying over and above the standard hours included in the flying fees. For example, any remedial flights or any flight test resets, these will both incur an additional material fee. I'll talk next about the course structure on the next slide, thanks. So I did mention it's a 2-year course, and I'll talk a little bit about what the students will learn and experience in year 1 and in year 2. So it's a 2-year course split into 4 different semesters, you can see there on the screen. In semester 1, the students will sit the theory and flying to the recreational pilot license. That's the entry-level license. In semester 2 of year 1, they will sit the theory and flying towards their private pilot license. In semester 3, at the start of year 2, they will do the theory and flying to the commercial pilot license, which I've mentioned is a little bit more complex than the private pilot license. And then finally in semester 4, there's that fork in the road where the students will get to choose either the command instrument rating or the flight instructor rating. Upon successful completion of all 4 of those semesters, the student will have enough credits to graduate with the associate degree. All right, let's look at the next slide, thanks. I'll talk a little bit about the type of learning that you can expect. So all the learning in the course is completed at either one of the 2 bases, either at home via remote learning or in the city for the city classes. Most flights are conducted in daylight hours from sunrise to sunset, 7 days per week. You'll be trained by one of our 25 flight instructors, most of whom are former students of RMIT and graduates of the associate degree. So that kind of inside knowledge we've found has been really beneficial to our students because the instructors have been through the same course and graduated with the same degree. We have internal CASA authorised testing officers within flight training who conduct our flight tests for all licenses and ratings issued throughout the course. Throughout last year, 2020, what wasn't already electronic has been moved to electronic format, which means courseware can now be accessed at any time of day from anywhere. Okay, on the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about the career outcomes, and I'm sure the $1,000,000 question is how has COVID affected the industry? So I've got a little bit of insight here from Boeing. Whilst COVID has seen a downturn in the industry, this appears to be temporary, with industry recovery set to get underway over the next 2 to 3 years. Each year, Boeing releases a forecast of new commercial pilots required globally. Boeing, of course, being the American aircraft manufacturer. The numbers are available on their website and are estimates drawn from the number of aircraft that are on order. So in other words, aircraft that other airlines around the world have ordered but have yet to be manufactured. So with that said, Boeing forecasts over 248,000 new commercial pilots will be required between now and 2029 in the Asia Pacific region alone, and over 763,000 globally. So of course, this is good news for those considering to commence the studies in the next year. Post-pandemic, domestic demand for air travel is likely to recover first. So as an entry-level pilot fresh out of training, the associate degree graduates can expect jobs to range from flight instructor to fly-in, fly-out pilot serving remote communities in the north, to perhaps a Q300 or Q400 first officer via the QFPP program, which I'll talk about very shortly. There are other pathways, for example, charter airlines, or Defence Force. All right, over on the next slide, thanks. With more flying experience and managerial qualifications, graduates can move to into more senior positions such as chief pilot or flight operations manager. Our aviation programs do really create some great pathways into some pretty exciting careers in aviation. Next slide, thanks. All right, well, I mentioned our QFPP program, or Qantas Future Pilot Program. This is a partnership with which we've established through Qantas back in 2018. It's a 2-year mentoring program which gives eligible candidates exposure to Qantas personnel from the chief pilot of Qantas Link to captains and first officers of their Q3 and 400. Right through to flight operations personnel. As I mentioned, it's been running since 2018. It costs nothing to be a registered candidate. You just need to be enrolled in the associate degree and meet some other eligibility criteria, which can be found on the Qantas or RMIT website. They run development programs throughout the duration of the course, starting in the student's second year. Successful candidates who meet the eligibility criteria may be offered an opportunity to attend the Qantas Airline Transition course, and upon successful completion, they may end up with a letter of offer for employment at Qantas Link. We believe this is, of course, a great opportunity for enrolled students to gain insights into airline operations, be mentored by a potential future employer, and potentially become employed by a major airline with only a few hundred flying hours. More information about the QFPP can be found on the RMIT website. Next slide, thanks. So, why RMIT pilot training? So let's just recap why RMIT should be your preferred flight training provider. RMIT is a globally recognised university. We rank 55th globally on the graduate employment rate, and students have a choice of 2 flight training locations, one in Melbourne's west and one in Bendigo, 90 minutes from the CBD. Both have excellent proximity to airspace necessary for flight training, and with good all year round conditions for flight training at our Bendigo location. We have a modern fleet of around 21 aircraft, and we have a brand new fleet arriving later this year in about November. And by brand new, I mean straight off the production line. They will smell like brand new aircraft, all with a modern instrument package with glass cockpit configurations. We also have 4 flight simulators with the latest technology split across the 2 bases. This gives us an industry-focused approach because we're using the latest cockpit technology. So with brand new aircraft and over 25 years of experience, my question to you would be, why not RMIT? Over on the next slide, thanks. All right, if you'd like to know more about the associate degree, please check the contact details on your screen. There'll also be a short amount of time at the end of today's presentations to answer your questions, so be sure to pop them into the chat. Thank you for taking the time to learn about the associate degree in aviation, and I'll now hand you over to Professor Crystal Jong, who's going to talk about our other exciting aviation programs.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Thank you. That's a very comprehensive introduction of our flight training program. And I'm very pleased to take over from Paul to talk about the Bachelor of Aviation degree program, the Bachelor of Applied Science Aviation program. So again, of course, welcome to today's session. It's really exciting to see you here to pursue the prospect of studying aviation degree program with RMIT. So perhaps the first question that you want to ask is why you want to study aviation and why you want to study the aviation program with RMIT. So I just want to share with you some of the insight that I have gained through my experience working in the industry and also working as academia. So you might say, and as we know, that aviation is actually an industry. So this industry is to some extent quite special, quite different from other industries. It's different from that of a supermarket industry, of the motorcycle, of the ground transport. And why it's so special? Because aviation industry is actually a very internationalized, standardized global industry. The skills, the competencies that you will gain through the study will land you with any of the dreamed jobs you might have around the world. So that's the first thing I want to share with you. The second thing I want to share with you, aviation actually is a very, very dynamic and a very exciting industry. You might say, yes, of course, because we have seen the impact of COVID-19, and that's very true. But perhaps you will not forget that how keen we are currently are that we want to fly again to any destination that we have dreamed of. So aviation industry is an industry that require very, very special skills and competencies that perhaps you will only get through studying with the university. So that's my answer to the question that you might have to ask why you want to study aviation program in the university. The other things that I want to share with you, as you can see from this screen, that RMIT, we have over 75 years of history in educating aviation professionals. So we have had this degree, in place for many years. We have very experienced academia to deliver the programs, and we have programs delivered throughout, different campuses, in other countries, off campuses, like in Hong Kong, in Singapore, and in Vietnam. So that's evidence of our reputation that we have a very high quality, sought after program in the market. And again, of course, our program is very industry focused, and our academia are one of the best researched academias who can deliver the program to satisfy your needs. Next slide, please. So why do you think that you need to study in the aviation program through the RMIT program? So the next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, so as I have explained that, this degree program will land you some dreamed jobs that you might have. Currently, what we are offering are two streams. One is the management stream, which is a 3-year Bachelor of Applied Science Aviation program. So as you can see, it is a management stream. The focus of the study is on the management operational side of the aviation industry. The other stream is the piloting stream, and that is a stream majority or quite some of the contents have been discussed already just now by Paul, who has shared with you how we are training you with the pilot qualifications, but at the same time that provide a pathway for you to gain a bachelor degree, and that is the 3-year bachelor degree of applied science aviation. So that really means you not only get a pilot qualification, but you also get a bachelor degree, and that is a double qualification, which give you the advantage to find the jobs in the industry. Next one, please. So as I said, that aviation is a very, it's a unique industry. It has its, attractiveness. So how exactly we design our program? So what we have in our mind when we design our program is that we take into account what exactly is needed in terms of the skills, in terms of the competencies in the industry, and we integrate that into our program. So the particular areas of study, as we have listed here, include but are not limited to the following. So that is the airline operation, airport operation, the regulatory environment, quality, safety, human factors, sustainability, maintenance, and air cargo. So if you want me to explain further in all these areas of study, I can share with you, and perhaps you could relate this to your personal experience if you have ever traveled either domestically or internationally. When you start booking process and you go through the airport, onboard the aircraft, and land at the airport, so that is actually a very complicated process. Even though you do not see it, what you have seen is a kind of just process: booking the ticket, check in either online or at the check-in counter, go through the airport and land. Okay, but behind the scene, actually there are so many things, and actually the skills and competencies required for the airline and the airport people to handle all the people and the air and the cargo. For example, your check-in baggage to be shipped very smoothly and effectively without your hand luggage being misplaced. For example, we might have the scheduling people, and that is part of the airline operation. We might have airport slots management to ensure what time, particular minute or second, to allow the aircraft to take off and the landing. We also have perhaps air traffic controllers to ensure how the aircraft and when the aircraft take off and the landing at airport in what weather conditions. So all these type of particular skills and the competencies we will teach you, we will embed you during your study with RMIT. So those are the areas of study that you will have that when you are studying with us. The next one. So you might ask again, and as I actually have touched this question at the very beginning of my presentation, why you want to study with RMIT? And I assume that you perhaps have done some investigation, some research already. You are aware that there are a couple of universities that are available in Victoria that provide aviation programs, and you are determining which one is the most appropriate one for you. Or you want to consider there are other universities that are also providing aviation programs across Australia interstate, and whether you should move interstate to pursue your program. So I want to share with you a few things when you make this decision. So it's very important and really critical for you to make an informed decision, because it's really decide what is the best program for you and what kind of a study experience you will have after 3 years of study with a university. So there might be a couple of things that you want to take into account. The first is that what exactly the program looks like, and that perhaps come to the point of curriculum. What are the courses? What are the units you are learning throughout your study? The second is that who are those lecturers? Who are those people who have a passion, who have the expertise, who have the knowledge to deliver those programs, and whether they have the industry insight, whether they are doing research, whether they have the care to look after you during your study. The third thing you perhaps want to consider is the service, the whole university system, the kind of a structure that you will, that would be very critical for you. Because remember, you actually, once you decide which program in which university you will study, you actually will spend at least 3 years to be with that university. It would be very hard for you to change right in the middle of your study. So all these 3, in my view, factors, if you want to take into consideration, I'm very confident I can share with you. I think RMIT would be the best choice for you. My justification is that our program, as I have explained, all the curriculum are designed to the extent to equip you with those skills and competencies you will need to land you the dream job you will have in the industry, in the sector. The second is that our academia, we have a team of academia from aerospace engineering, from aviation, from air traffic control, etc., etc., you name it, with a wide range of expertise who are able to deliver, and jointly we deliver the high quality programs. We not only do the teaching, we also do the research, and we have international experience, but more importantly, we have industry inside. Quite some of our academians, including myself, for example, we have worked in industry. We know how the industry works. We can relate our experience to the courses that we deliver. And our lectures come from different countries with different cultural backgrounds and sharing their expertise and the knowledge that they would have. And more importantly, as I said, that we have a structure. We have the support service system in place to support you throughout your study with RMIT. And more importantly, as we have said, and as you can see from this slide, that we have practical industry focused approach. We have, extensive connections with the industry, like the Qantas, as just Paul discussed. We have contacts and very good relationship with a lot of organizations like Boeing, BAE Systems, Thales, etc., who will quite often come to the university to share their experience or give the guest lectures to our students, and also they might provide some projects for the students to tackle. So that's the very invaluable experience you don't want to miss out. Thank you. The next one. So the industry connected and hands-on learning, that's something that I will discuss with you a little bit further. Next one. So there are a lot of opportunities where that you can connect with the industry. Either we have a research project at the year 3 where that you can do a research and the projects are provided by the industry. So that's one way you can connect with the industry. The other thing is that there are some placements available from aviation organizations. For example, like JSTAR, they would provide the placements for you so that you will get experience before you graduate. The other thing, as you can see from this one, our students is joining those competition and they will be able to succeed. So those are some examples you can see where that we could connect you with the industry. Next one. So what do you think the career would look like in aviation? As I said, aviation is an industry. So that really means that there are broad skills and competencies required. There are many different types of roles and the jobs available for you to take. But after the aviation degree, remember that our focus is really on the very specialty, the unique skills and competencies required that you would not gain through any other programs. For example, if you want to take a marketing program, etc., you will not learn anything about airline airport operation. You will not learn about air traffic control. So these type of roles, in different sections, operations, scheduling, insurance of the aircraft and the maintenance, etc., are always available with the industry. So these are some of the organizations that would hire our graduates. I can give you an example. For example, our students would work in scheduling department of the airline, contributing to the rostering of the schedules of the aircraft, of the flights, of the schedules of the pilot rostings, etc., etc. Also, they could work at the airport for the route development, which really means they would collaborate with airlines to develop routes, or actually they could work for insurance and the warranty department in the engineering section, because they want to ensure that the aircraft, the engine, and all the parts, within the warranty arrangement, to have proper arrangement for the maintenance. So you can see, all these organizations would hire aviation graduates, and the job, the key thing is the skills and the competency that you would gain from the program. In addition to that, we are undergoing our restructuring of the program, where we are embedding the very latest technology, for example, the artificial intelligence, the data-driven research method, etc., into our undergraduate program. And I'm sure these data analysis skills is something that you definitely want to have, so that you could have your dreamed job. Next one. So the entry requirement, I've talked about a lot about the career prospect and why our program is the best one that you want to study with us. So the entry requirement is something perhaps now you want to consider. So in terms of the ATAR, for the management stream, we are looking for 64.5 ATAR score. For the piloting program, we are looking at 70.25. And there are a few prerequisites, as you can see that in the middle column. So we are looking at a study score of at least 25 in mathematics. It could be any mathematics, and also the study score of at least 25 in English. But take a note that is except English as a foreign language and 30 in English as EAL. So the subject adjustment, as you can see, that the study score of 25 in any information technology or any science equals 2 aggregate points per study, or a study score of 30 in any mathematics equals 2 aggregate points per study. So the overall maximum of 8 points. So this is the ATAR requirements. Next one. Next one. So there are pathways for you to become a student of our, to enroll in our program. So the first is the associate degree in aviation, that is the professional piloting. As Paul has explained, you need to study 2 years first, enroll as associate degree, and then you transfer to our program where you need another 1.5 years. So that totals 3.5 years, but you will have the Bachelor of Applied Science Aviation, but at the same time you also get the pilot's qualification. So when you achieve the grade point average of 2.0 or greater, are guaranteed entry into the bachelor degree program, okay, with the exemption of 144 credit points. That is equivalent to 1.5 years. Next slide, please. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much. We've got a very, very young aviation enthusiast who cannot wait to join me in this presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Christelle. Looks like you got a bit of help there in the background. All right, it's time for some questions now. So I'm just going to go through one or two of the questions we've received from the audience. The first one being, when you've finished a degree in aviation, what more do you need to do in order to fly as a commercial pilot? So when you finish a degree in aviation, what more do you need to fly as a commercial pilot? That's a great question, and one in which I can answer. In the associate degree, you graduate with either a command instrument rating or a flight instructor rating. If you go down the command instrument rating route, you've got all the you've got basically the minimum qualifications to meet or to be employed through the Qantas Future Pilot program. So in other words, you could potentially be offered a position through that program with Qantas with only those qualifications. If you choose the flight instructor rating route, well, then you have the minimum qualifications to be employed as a flight instructor. So in both cases, the associate degree offers minimum qualifications for you to pretty much go out into industry and start flying as a commercial pilot. Some airlines do require a minimum number of hours. I can't say what that is. It'd be best to go onto the careers websites of different airlines and find out what those requirements are. Usually they'll post what those requirements are. Okay, so next question. What are the benefits of obtaining a flying license through a uni degree versus going through a private flying school? That's another great question. Well, in my experience with private flying organisations, you don't get the quality that that you would get through a university. And also, it's my understanding that in most private flying organisations, you wouldn't be able to get fee help. Or HEC, so because it's not the flying isn't done as part of a degree or a diploma, so it would really be you know, self-funding the entire course fee. Okay, so next question: will pilots be replaced by technology? That's a great question. We get this question a lot. Look, advancements in technology have, you know, have come in leaps and bounds over the past few years, but I would say that for the foreseeable future, I can't see any change to pilots being up in the cockpit. You can imagine the amount of red tape and legislation that would need to pass through governments and different jurisdictions around the world to remove pilots from the cockpit and get computers doing all the work. They already do a lot of the work, but they still need humans to interact with the machines to really sort of monitor for when things don't quite go as prescribed. Okay, right, I'll have a look at the next question. So I'll just go through these. Okay, a Qantas Future Pilot Program question. Has the QFPP been affected by COVID, and is there any information about it if it will reopen in time? Okay, so the latest we've had from Qantas is that it is a 3-phase program. So you must be successful in each phase to get accepted into the next phase. The first phase is the talent identification program, and at the moment that's the only phase that is open. That's of course being driven by COVID and operational requirements. So phase 2 and 3 are currently on hold until probably until there's an operational need to reopen those two phases. We don't know when that will be, so I can't comment on that. But certainly phase 1, the talent identification program, is open, and it's open to all of our year 2 students. Great question. Okay, next question. Do the students in the associate degree work alongside the pilot stream, the bachelor students in flight training? Great question. Yes, they do. So we have a lot of bachelor students with us currently who are going through the bachelor degree, who are studying right alongside our associate degree students. They basically get trained by the same instructors, fly the same aircraft on the same routes, etc. So the answer to that question is very much a yes. All right. Crystal, I've got a few questions for you. If you'd like to unmute.
Yeah.
Can you see those questions there? Will the bachelor degree be online next year due to COVID? I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for Paul. Yeah, happy to take over for the questions and answers. So the first question, will the bachelor degree be online next year due to COVID? I can say yes. Provided the COVID, the restrictions are still in place, imposed by the government, whether it is the federal government or the state government, the course delivery would be online. If the restriction is lifted, then we are very, very keen to come back to campus to have the face-to-face teaching. So actually in semester 2, we have everything planned. We had everything planned for a face-to-face delivery of the teaching, but given the restrictions introduced again, so we changed to online delivery again. So for next year, provided the restriction would be introduced in place, then it will be online. But what I can assure you is that, we have not only the pre-recordings, but we also have online interactive session, which really means it is online like today, but it is the teacher, the lecturer who is delivering the lecture online. You have that in the interactive session with the teachers. So I think the quality is assured, and we also ran the students experience survey. We really listen to your experience, to your feedback, so that we can improve. So that's for sure. How many students graduate from the bachelor degree each year? I think it really depends on how I define the bachelor degree graduation, because as I explained, we have several campuses. We have campuses in Singapore, we have campus in Hong Kong, we have campus in Melbourne, and also we have exchange programs from mainland China. So every year we have around 60-50 Chinese students coming over to join us to do 1.5 year. So including them for Melbourne, currently, I think my estimate, we could have more than 100 graduates in Melbourne campuses, but in Hong Kong, for each year, we also have between 60 to 80 graduates. And also in Singapore, we have around 20 to 50 graduates each year for the bachelor degree. The next one, what are the most prominent and important differences between the associate degree and the applied science stream of aviation? Is that a program to, is that a question for Paul? Paul, do you see the differences between associate degree and applied science stream of aviation? Is that for you?
Yeah, I can see
Okay.
that. Well, yeah. So thanks, Crystal. The most important difference between the piloting stream of the associate degree in aviation and the pilot stream bachelor is that with the associate degree, you come out with only the commercial pilot license and all the ones previous, so recreational, private, and commercial. You don't get the choice of the 2 ratings. Whereas the associate degree, you get the choice of either one of the 2 ratings. So hopefully that's probably the main difference. And of course, the associate degree is 2 years, whereas the bachelor is 3 years. Hopefully that answers the question. I've got another question here, which I'll answer, which is kind of related to that same question. What's the practical relationship between the 2 courses? If I wish to do the degree with the pilot stream, does it mean I fly for 2 years to complete the associate degree and then stop flying and do the extra 1.5 years to get the degree? So that's a great question. What we usually find is that students enroll in the bachelor degree first, and they carry out the first sort of year or year and a half of study before they start flying. And then in the second year, they will start the flying component, and that's when we will see them out here at Point Cook to carry out the flight training components. So hopefully that answers that question. I think there was another question further down. Yeah, can you complete both ratings, the instructor rating and the instrument rating? So that's another great question, and the answer is yes, you can. You only need one of the ratings to gain the credits necessary to graduate with the associate degree. However, we do have a number of students who just choose to go on and do the other rating over and above what they've already completed to graduate. So, you absolutely can. Of course, there's additional course costs related to that, but yeah, there's no reason why you can't do both. Okay, so all right, another question. While completing the bachelor degree for piloting, would it be best to stay in student accommodation in Melbourne City or towards Point Cook? Well, that's a really good question. I think coming to Point Cook, if you don't have a car, can be a bit tricky, although not completely insurmountable. There are buses and trains. It's a bit tricky to get right down to the base where we're located, but we do have a number of students who do that on a regular basis. So, which means, potentially living in the city could be an option. However, because you're out at Point Cook for quite a lot of the time, the associate degree, as I mentioned, the learning is carried out over 7 days, and it's a pretty intensive flying program. So, it really depends on whether you want to sustain the travel every day out to Point Cook or just have a short travel time. My personal recommendation would be to get accommodation in Point Cook, probably because it's going to be a lot cheaper than in Melbourne City. All right, so we've only got about 7 or 8 minutes left. I'll just go through. I don't know, Crystal, if you can see any there that you can answer.
I think there's one question that I can further elaborate in terms of the graduate numbers, where in my experience of delivering, coordinating the final year research projects, where we deliver in both semester 1 and semester 2. So in semester 1, because we have international students, but we have locally around the 20 to 30 in semester 1, and in semester 2 we also have around 60. So that totals up around 80 students, which really means perhaps there are between 60 to, so that's between 80 to 100 students would graduate on average every year. Yeah, so that's my question. I think the next one is for you in terms of whether any of the students gone into the ADF and what roles are they in.
Yeah, thanks, Crystal. That's a great question. And yes, I believe some of our students have gone into the ADF, although I can't really comment further on that because I'm not aware of what roles they've undertaken. But we do have another question about the bachelor's course. Does the oh, sorry, yeah, how competitive is the piloting stream Bachelor of Aviation course? I think, would that be one for you, Crystal?
Yeah, okay, I'm happy to take that question. I think I would like to put that in the bigger context, rather than just focusing, saying you've got a pilot license, you have absolutely everything needed to be hired as a pilot. But I think as a young person or anyone who perhaps aspires to have a career advancement throughout your career life, even though we say in today's environment that a degree is just a kind of a evidence to demonstrate that you have received receive this kind of education. I think what you learn from the degree is that is the skills, is the competency that you would have that would put you in a very advantage position where you are competing. As I explained at the beginning of the presentation, we said that aviation and particularly pilots is actually a global job. You know, if you have the pilot license, perhaps you can find a job in any of the airlines in the world. But if you want to move up to the management ladders and you want to be a leader, very inspirational, effective leader manager, you know, the degree program, which you know, have more you know, curriculums that would equip you with the skills and competencies, perhaps would equip you with that kind of skills that you might need as you move up with your career development in your career. Okay, so that's my view. And don't forget, you know, I think in my view, you actually in today's environment, you are not only competing with the graduates in Australia, you're actually competing with the global graduates who have the same degree or the same qualification. So you have the language skills, but other thing, anything else that make you stand up, perhaps is more critical. So you know, that kind of a lifelong learning and the you know, the capability of you know, of moving upward, I think that's the critical thing. Okay, so that's something that I would say. I think perhaps that's all. Is there any other questions
I've got
that we could answer, or?
Yeah, I've got a just a couple more. We're going to have to wrap it up very quickly. We've only got a few minutes left. But I've got one here. What is the advantage of doing the degree if you want to be a commercial pilot? So that's this is a question we get asked quite a bit. About going back 10 or 20 years ago, it wasn't that necessary to have a degree. Airlines would simply just hire you on the basis of that you've got a commercial pilot license, and of course all the minimum qualifications. Now with where there's competition and demand is at the moment not as great as it was. Where you've got two applicants, one with a degree and one without a degree, airlines can, you know, obviously they have the choice of taking either one of the two. Of course, they're going to usually, in most cases, and this is generalised, but usually they would choose the applicant that holds the degree. So that's kind of where the industry has been going for a number of years now, and certainly you need to have the degree and graduated in the degree to for entry into the QFPP. So that's a really good question. All right, we've got just 1 or 2 minutes left, so maybe time for one more question.
Paul, I see one question that if I understood correctly, the associate degree has more reading license than the bachelor degree. If you want all of the readings but want to do the bachelor degree, can you complete both of the courses? I think the simple answer is yes, isn't it? It's just
yes,
you need to do 3.5 years. You do 2 years for the associate degree, and then that serves as a pathway for you to transfer to the bachelor degree stream, and you continue with another 1.5 years. You will also get the bachelor degree.
Absolutely, that's correct. Thank you, Crystal. And yes, you get about, and this is straight off the top of my head, you'd have to confirm with the uni website or give us a call, but I think it's about 147 or 140 odd credit points towards the bachelor. Yeah,
144.
144. Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you, Crystal. All right. Well, thank you very much to all of our audience out there. Thank you for taking the time to learn about our globally recognised programs. For more information on these programs, be sure to check out the program information available on the RMIT University website. But until then, hopefully we'll see you at the university next year. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.